We have some breaking news that's coming in here. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appointed the new RBI, or the Reserve Bank of India's governor, after Urjit Patel's unceremonious exit. Shaktikanta Das is the new governor of India's top bank. That's the Reserve Bank of India. That's the latest news that's breaking here on World is One. One of the big news stories that's been running alongside the state elections, the 5 state elections in India, is the fact that Urjit Patel, the former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, put in his papers, his resignation yesterday. And today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appointed Shaktikanta Das as the new RBI governor. It's a confirmation. Less than 24 hours since Urjit Patel's exit, the post for the governor of the Reserve Bank of India has found a new candidate. It's appointed by the Prime Minister of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appointed Shaktikanta Das, one of his own men, part of his government. A lot of talk has surrounded the friction between North Bloc, that's the government and its finance ministry, and Mint Street, that's the Reserve Bank of India. Differences in terms of policy decision making that have led to strained relationships with the RBI governor, former RBI governor Urjit Patel, walking out in a huff, citing personal reasons. Keep in mind, Urjit Patel did say that his resignation was due to personal reasons, but there has been a lot of build-up in the back and forth between the government of India and the Reserve Bank of India. Questions being raised on whether there's too much government interference in the running of the Reserve Bank of India. And even as those questions continue to haunt the government has swiftly swung into action, not leaving the post of the RBI governor vacant for too long. But Shaktikanta Das, the man on your screens, has been appointed as the new governor of the Reserve Bank of India. That's the news that's breaking here on World is One. This is also the day when we've seen Surjit Bhalla, an economist, step down from the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, the EACPM. And that was a day after Urjit Patel resigned as the governor of RBI. And the latest now is that RBI has found a new chief in the form of Shaktikanta Das. Sumit Chaturvedi, my colleague, joins on the phone line. Sumit, this is essentially Shaktikanta Das, who's been part of the government, who's been now appointed as the Reserve Bank of India's governor.
Well, absolutely. He's been decorated bureaucrat all throughout his career. Remember, he has been in financial industry for a long time, so it's quite not surprising that he has been chosen as one of the, he was among one of the likely candidates now being chosen as the RBI governor. In fact, the move, the overall quickness in which government has decided to appoint Shaktikanta Das as the RBI governor itself says a lot about the decision, the post which was vacant, and his name was being floated around since last evening. Well, there were some reports saying that Shaktikanta Das could be the next RBI governor. In the morning also, the finance secretary said the decision regarding RBI governor will be taken very soon. Remember one more thing, he was quite instrumental in demonetization process. Remember his press conferences, which used to happen very frequently while was going on.
And Sumit, if I may add to what you're saying, he's also been the Economic Affairs Secretary of India. He's also been the Revenue Secretary of India and the Fertilizer Secretary of India. So Mr. Shaktikanta Das, who's a IAS officer of Tamil Nadu state cadre, who's now the new Reserve Bank of India's governor, in that sense, he comes with all the right credentials to take up this top job.
Well, absolutely. And Krishna, one more thing. He has been quite close to the government establishment as well. Remember the days when, while demonetization was going on, he used to come and defend all the actions of the government, the demo, which was under controversy that period of time. So he has worked quite closely with the government, and in fact, working with Jaitley has been his forte. He has been Jaitley's favorite as well. So that says a lot about the things which were going on since long time. While the RBI governor has fallen out of favor, and RBI has been, the RBI governor, deputy governor were saying things about government. They were both on different sides. Well, Shaktikanta Das has been quite on the side of government, I would say, throughout his career.
And Sumit, all said and done, this swift appointment will again raise a lot of questions, because the questions that were being raised when Urjit Patel resigned was, how much of micromanagement is the government trying to do of the Reserve Bank of India? And even when Urjit Patel had taken over, the questions were he was considered the government's man instead of Raghuram Rajan. And now, even Urjit Patel is not the government's man. You've got another man who's literally worked as part of the ruling government, who's taking over as the RBI governor. Questions will again be raised on how autonomous is the appointment of the RBI governor and henceforth the operation of India's top bank.
Well, absolutely. But today, the markets were quite in green also, because they were hopeful that interest rates will be something which will be agreed upon very soon. Government wants RBI to cut interest rates. Also, it says a lot about the quickness in which the government has acted and has appointed a new RBI governor, because the fingers would have been raised and a lot of speculation would have happened over the next few days. But today also they have gone for I would say smart headline management. Also tomorrow it will be headline also that a new RBI governor has been appointed, and a lot of work they need to do as far as the credit to farm sector is concerned, credit to MSME is concerned, and now they have got a man for this job.
Right.
Remember, we were discussing yesterday how RBI being headless chicken would be very harmful for the economy, and now we have got an RBI governor within 24 hours of the earlier governor resigning.
Right. Sumit Chaturvedi joining us for this big break news. We'll continue to keep the focus, and also now we have my colleague Siddhant Sibbal also joining us on this broadcast as we bring to you the latest breaking news. The big news from India at this hour is the fact that 24 hours after the resignation of the governor of the Reserve Bank of India, the government, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has appointed Shaktikanta Das, the former Revenue Secretary of India, Economic Affairs Secretary of India and Fertilizer Secretary of India, an IAS or Indian Administrative Services Officer of Tamil Nadu cadre, who spent most of his career working with the Tamil Nadu government, and then eventually was a crucial, integral part of the demonetization process of the BJP-led government in the centre. Siddhant, yes, the government has sprung into action quickly to make sure the RBI is not a headless chicken, but again, questions will again be raised on this appointment as well.
Well, questions have always been raised, but Shaktikanta Das is a person who has been leading the Indian economy in many times. He was of course, the secretary at the Economic Department of Economic Affairs, but he gave his last interview before being appointed as the new RBI governor to Wion, to India's only international news channel. Just 2 weeks ago, he spoke to Wion at length for 30 minutes, since he was India's Sherpa to the G20 summit. He was a chief negotiator, negotiating on behalf of India, and he spoke at length India's priorities at the G20 summit. He was the man who was, in a sense, responsible for that FATF being mentioned during the Prime Minister's statement at the G20 summit. And remember that entire 9 points that Indian Prime Minister gave at the G20 summit, which happened in Argentina just 2 weeks ago, in which the Indian Prime Minister called on FATF to give a common definition on the fugitive economic issue that
Right, we seem to be having a bit of an audio issue with Siddhant Sibbal. His line seems to have been disconnected, but it's the big story that's breaking that Siddhant was talking about. Keep in mind, Siddhant Sibbal, our correspondent, was the last one to interview Shaktikanta Das before his appointment today as the RBI governor. Ahead of the G20 summit, Siddhant Sibbal had interviewed Shaktikanta Das. Shaktikanta Das, the man on his screen, ladies and gentlemen, is the new governor of the Reserve Bank of India. That's the big story that's breaking here. Das has been appointed on a 3-year tenure. That's what we understand at this point in time. This a day after the resignation of the former RBI governor Urjit Patel, citing personal reasons. But ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, Mr. Shaktikanta Das has been Secretary of Economic Affairs as part of the ruling government. He has been a man who's instrumental while during the implementation of demonetization in the country. We have Sumit Chaturvedi continuing to join with us. Sumit, that's right. It's very clear. Sumit, Shaktikanta Das is the man with all the right credentials to probably take over as the Reserve Bank of India, barring the fact that he's not a pure economist in that sense. But you will also, concur with me when I say that the question was on, can the Reserve Bank of India have a governor as a man heading the Reserve Bank of India who is independent of the government, who is independent of the ruling party. That's what was questioned when Raghuram Rajan decided not to renew his tenure. That's the same question that came up when Urjit Patel came up for resignation. Now, although you have a man with all the right credentials taking over the job, he is still a man of the ruling government.
Well, Krishna, the question wasn't of autonomy, and this time it looks like government, even if it's an indication that government has appointed its own man, markets are not concerned with that. What markets are concerned with, that RBI governor and the government both should work in tandem, and that's what it ensures in a way. If he's perceived as a government man, it will be definitely perceived as something that they both work in tandem. Both RBI governor and government will work in tandem. And remember, for the problem credit squeeze which the economy is facing, government wants somebody who will listen to the government and not will oppose the policies of the government. And here it's quite clear that Shaktikanta Das would not go, and go ahead and oppose the policies or the decisions of the government. If he, even if he opposes them, definitely he's going to find a solution to the problems of credit squeeze, the problem of interest rates, all of that. So markets today were also jumping on the whole thing that the old RBI governor has gone, but a new guy, he may be the one who will work in tandem with the government, who will cut down the interest rates as demanded by the government, successive governments over the years. So governments always want somebody who is going to work with them in a very cohesive manner. And Shaktikanta Das, at least, he ensures that he will listen to the government and will not be at the loggerheads with the government. Well, market doesn't give two hoots to autonomy or not. They doesn't care much about autonomy or not. What they care about is overall whether the governor works.
That's right, Sumit. That is the
not.
very point of view of the financial markets, the stock markets. But the stock markets don't run the country. There is a bigger question over here. The stock markets are an indicator at best, and sometimes even the stock markets don't indicate the state of the economy all that well. While the markets might not give two hoots about whether it's a government man at the helm of one of India's most important institutions, a lot of others will. Siddhant Sibal, our principal diplomatic correspondent, joins us right now as well. Siddhant, you were telling us you were the last person to interview Shaktikanta Das, who's been appointed as the RBI governor just before the G20 summit.
Well, yes, the interview which Shaktikanta Das gave to any Indian news channel before becoming the governor was to Wion, and he was India's chief negotiator at G20. Because of him, India spoke on the crucial issue of economic offenders at the G20. He was India's man in G20, not for this summit or the Argentinian summit, but before that also the earlier summits which happened in China and other countries like in Germany. But by and large, the big focus is on this man because he will be shouldering a lot of responsibility comes debate which is before the resignation of the former RBI Urjit Patel. Of course, autonomy remains the big big question mark, but he brings with himself a lot of experience, a lot of government experiences, because he was also the secretary at the Economic Affairs and dealing with G20s, altogether a different experience. Because of him, India spoke not only on the issue of fugitive economic offenders, but on the issue of black money. So his experience will help RBI as an institution, but also the country's economic issues and, of course, other related issues. But by and large, he is a person who has a clean image, a person who has experience, a person who can give a new direction to RBI.
That's right, Siddhant. I was discussing this with Sumit as well, our colleague. Mr. Shaktikanta Das comes with all the right credentials, in terms of active working experience in the government of India to become the governor of the Reserve Bank of India. But then again, his appointment will also raise a lot of questions. Again, you have somebody who's worked inside the government as part of the ruling government, somebody who's seen as very close to the ruling establishment, who's appointed as the head of an institution that needs to be independent of the government.
Well, of course, the autonomy debate remains, and since Shaktikanta Das takes charge at a time when this autonomy debate has got to a greater length because of how Urjit Patel resigned. So obviously questions will be there, but it seems that Shaktikanta Das, who has dealt with much greater issues, especially when the country was facing the financial crisis, with the financial deficit crisis, he is a person who can bring RBI out of the woods to a better position, especially when it comes to image, because this was a man who was dealing with the entire crisis of the Brexit also. Remember, he was the secretary when the Brexit decision came from UK, and we know how important the decision has been. The UK is still grappling with the entire issue, so he can give a new direction to RBI. And the biggest issue will be the image issue, because we know how autonomy debate has not only gathered steam but also has dented the image of RBI and of course the government, because there are of course speculations. We know that government is trying to interfere with the autonomy of RBI, so he can give a clean image to the entire institution and can bring the institution back to its feet.
Right, Siddhant Sibal there, our correspondent who is joining us for this big story that's breaking. Shaktikanta Das has been appointed as the new governor of the Reserve Bank of India. And we will be keeping our eyes on that story and see how it develops. For now, Siddhant Sibal, thank you so much for joining us.